They didn't want fame. They didn't want a movie. They just wanted peace. But what the Smurl family got was hell. It started with a whisper. In 1974, Jack and Janet Smurl moved their young family into what looked like the perfect home in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. A modest, two-family house nestled quietly among other working-class homes, with enough space for Jack's elderly parents to live upstairs. It was a fresh start meant to be their forever home. But sometimes, forever can become a curse. The scratching begins. It wasn't long after they unpacked that the scratching started. At first, it was small, tiny sounds behind the walls. Mice, maybe. Jack even tore apart some drywall trying to find the nest. But there was nothing. No droppings, no holes, no signs of life. And yet, the scratching grew louder. Then came the stench. A sour, rotting odor would seep from the walls without warning, so powerful it made guests gag. Plumbers found no broken pipes. Exterminators found no dead animals. The source was untraceable, as if it wasn't coming from inside the walls at all, but from something else, something waiting. The first incident. Janet was the first to see it. Late one night, while folding laundry in the basement, she saw movement out of the corner of her eye. A tall, dark shape, unmoving, just standing at the foot of the stairs. She turned to face it, but there was nothing there. No shadow, no person, only silence. But that silence was too loud. It was like the house itself was holding its breath. Then came the bang. A deafening slam from upstairs. Janet rushed up, only to find every cupboard door in the kitchen wide open. The kids were asleep. Jack was at work. And she knew she had closed every single one just an hour earlier. She didn't sleep that night. Neither did the house. Escalation. The entity wasn't content with being noticed. It wanted fear. It wanted chaos. The TV began turning on by itself, blaring static at full volume at 3:13 a.m. sharp. Pictures were ripped from the walls. Heavy drawers flew open and slammed shut. Lights flickered, and when they flickered, the family would see things. Faces in the mirrors. A woman in black walking past the hallway. A shadow crawling across the ceiling. The air felt charged, thick, as if something was constantly watching. No, not just watching. Waiting. Jack's torment. And then it turned its focus on Jack. He woke one night, drenched in sweat, feeling like he was being crushed. An invisible weight pinned him to the mattress. He tried to scream, but no sound came. His vision went black. When he woke, there were bruises on his arms, deep, finger-shaped bruises. Janet thought it was sleep paralysis, but that didn't explain why, 2 nights later, Jack was dragged from the bed. Not rolled, not slipped, dragged. Janet watched, paralyzed, as her husband was pulled off the mattress by his ankles and yanked across the room like a rag doll, leaving behind long, angry scratches on the floorboards. That was the night they realized it didn't want to scare them, it wanted to break them. The haunting goes public. Desperate, the Smurls turned to the church, but the local priest, Father O'Leary, was skeptical. He agreed to bless the house, but advised counseling and rest. A week later, the priest called them. He had woken up in the rectory with blood leaking from his ears, and the words, "Get out," burned into the pages of his Bible. He never returned to the house. Enter Ed and Lorraine Warren. Word spread. A neighbor whispered the story to a friend, who knew a woman who called a man. That man, Ed Warren. Ed and Lorraine Warren were renowned demonologists, the same ones who investigated the Amityville Horror and the Perrin farmhouse. They agreed to visit the Smurls and spend the night. What they found, even they weren't ready. Lorraine's vision. As soon as Lorraine stepped inside, she gasped. "There's something here," she whispered. "It's ancient, and it hates you." She claimed she saw a black mass slithering along the ceiling. She felt a suffocating malevolence, like it had been dormant for years and had finally awoken. Their cameras malfunctioned, their audio tapes hissed with static, crosses flipped upside down. Ed was nearly crushed by a falling chandelier that hadn't moved in years. And then Lorraine screamed. She had been scratched. 3 jagged, bloody marks ran across her back, through 2 layers of clothing. They fled the house that night. A possession begins. Things got worse. The youngest daughter, Dawn, began speaking in tongues, words she had never heard before. Her eyes would roll back, and she'd go stiff, then thrash like she was drowning. Janet began losing time. Hours would vanish. She'd wake up standing in the backyard. Once, she found herself in the basement, holding a kitchen knife. Jack heard voices in the walls. They taunted him, called him a failure, a coward, said Janet didn't love him, that the kids weren't really his. They were trying to tear the family apart, and it was working. The exorcism that failed. A full exorcism was ordered. Latin prayers filled the home. Holy water boiled in the bottle. Candles burst into flames. The walls screamed. A deep, guttural voice erupted from the air itself. "She's mine." Every light exploded at once, and then silence. For 2 days, the house was calm, quiet, almost too quiet. They thought it was over. Until Jack found the dog nailed to the basement wall, still alive. Final warning. They tried to move, tried to sell. No one would buy. Everyone had heard the stories, and no one wanted to be the next victim. The family stayed, trapped by finance and fear. One night, Janet heard whispering outside her daughter's door. When she opened it, all 3 children were levitating off the bed, their bodies limp, their mouths open, but no sound. Behind them, a tall, shadowed figure with red, burning eyes stood in the corner, grinning. She screamed and rushed in. Everything dropped. The figure was gone, but carved into the wall behind the bed, "You can't save them." What's left behind? Eventually, with the help of more priests and relentless spiritual warfare, the energy began to weaken, but it never left, even after the family moved. New tenants have reported footsteps, cold spots, whispers. They never